Oftentimes, now that it's summer and I'm wearing shorts, my apron goes longer than my shorts do, so it kind of looks like I don't wear pants, but not today. Today we are pure and chaste. We have longer shorts. Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tyler's Croatian Kitchen. Today we'll be making Knedle Scampi Meat, or shrimp dumplings. Now this isn't really any kind of sort of traditional Croatian meal. It's something I actually found scrolling through Instagram. So this recipe comes from Antonio Brajkovic, who is a chef in Umag. And I saw it and I thought, like we mentioned last week, I don't really love scampi just because I think it's a lot of work for not a lot of reward. And when I saw this, I thought maybe this could be something that would change my mind and make me actually like scampi. Because we're not eating and trying to peel it apart, we do that beforehand and we use the leftover shells to create the sauce. Which I think is a ingenious way to use something that more or less is kind of just waste at the end of the day. This is kind of how you make a bisque with lobster, and also how you can make a seafood stock. And we're going to use it directly in the meal today, so I think it works better. Knedle, or dumplings, are something that are very common in Austrian and Czech cuisine. Typically there they can be made out of bread or potato. I absolutely love bread dumplings. They are, I think, my favorite side. They are super easy to make and it goes with basically anything. It's also a great way to use leftover bread because it kind of has to be dry for you to make proper bread dumplings. And while Croatia has Knedle of its own, they're typically filled and they're usually sweet. So they'll be filled with some kind of fruit, maybe like plums, could be cherries. The point is it's like more of a dessert, whereas in Austria and the Czech Republic, it's more of like a side dish. So we're not making a dessert nor a side. Actually, this is the main dish. The dough is going to be made from potatoes, so it'll be similar to a gnocchi. And it'll be filled with the meat from the scampi, specifically the tail meat, because that's really all you can get out. The rest of the scampi we'll be using to make the sauce that it will be served in. So there's not really much else to say about this, just I thought it looked cool, so let's get into the ingredients. Of course we have scampi. I thought that's probably pretty obvious. The dough, like I said, is going to be made from potatoes, and in addition to potato, we'll need some flour, some egg, and of course salt and pepper to season. In the recipe I found, he uses red potatoes, but I'm going with white. I know we went over potatoes and when to use one versus the other. Not entirely sure why red would be better here. And I also always make my knedle from white potatoes and they always turn out amazing, so I'm just going to go with white. I think it's the best way to do it. He also boils them whole, which I don't understand why either because it just takes longer. So we're going to chop these up. They should be ready in about 20 minutes. For the stock, we'll need 1 onion, a few cloves of garlic, some white wine, and actually probably a few herbs, maybe like bay leaf, some Dalmatian spices to put a little Dalmatian twist on this. Dalmatian herbs. I keep calling them Dalmatian spices when they're not spices, and I blame the fact that they are called Dalmatian spices in Croatian. They're Dalmatian herbs. This is everything in a Dalmatian herb. Herbs. The packet of Dalmatian herbs has all of this. It's not a lot of ingredients, but this is going to be a bit more technique heavy, but I think it'll turn out great. I love dumplings, I love stuffed dumplings, and I think this will be fun to do something with seafood. So we'll get it on into the cooking. Most of this we can do concurrently, but we also want to be a little smart about how we're going about this. So first we want to start with cooking the potatoes because they're going to take usually the longest time. So I set the potatoes on to cook, and now it's time to turn our attention to our scampi. Bloop, 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 bloop. Alright, these are pretty simple. We only want the tail, because that's where most of the meat is. The head and claws we're going to use for the stock. So pretty simple. We're just going to twist and pull head, tail, and claws and everything else right in there. This one, now we're just going to want to kind of snap each piece very gently, go down, and we'll remove the first piece on the top. And once cleaned, we'll just push down at the bottom. The meat should just kind of slide right out. If the poop line didn't come out, we'll just grab a small knife right down the middle, very lightly open up as such, and we'll just remove the vein. And there is the meat. And now I'll do this for the rest of them. So now we have the meat separated from the shells. The shells are in this pot. I'm gonna put some oil, we'll bring it over to the stove where we'll start the bisque. The meat we'll hold off just for a second. Over here I have an onion that I cut in two, and a few cloves of garlic that I smashed that we'll use to flavor the bisque. All right, now let's head on over to the stove. So here at the stove, I have the pot here with the shells. I put some olive oil in there, and we're just gonna let this start to char a bit and start to break them apart as well. Why are we stamping them? Well, that's just to get all the flavor from the inside out. And once you can start to smell the shells, we'll add in our onion, the garlic, and some white wine. And the wine about, let's say, a glass. And water to cover. Make sure the heat's up high so it comes back to a boil quickly. Throw in a bay leaf or 3, who cares? More flavor. Some of our Dalmatian herbs. There, set it right this time. And I'm not using a coffee filter or cheesecloth this time. Since we're going to be straining this, we'll catch all of the herbs. And of course, we can't forget salt and pepper. You want to make sure the shells are still submerged. Once this comes into a boil, move it over to a smaller burner and let it simmer for 1 hour. So now the stock's simmering away, it's time we'll cook the shrimp. The shrimp cook really quickly, like about maybe 3 to 5 minutes. You're just looking for them to turn pink. Here we have some olive oil. Let's add it into our pan. Always good for more olive oil. Okay. And once this comes up to temp, give it a few seconds. You should have also preheated your pan. I guess some things I must have skipped. But we'll add in the shrimp to the pan. Once they start to get pink and curl up, that's when it's time to flip them over. And once they're basically done, we'll just season with some salt and pepper. Give it a little stir, or whatever that was. Shake the pan around to coat, and that's all. Turn the heat off. And we'll set these aside until it's time to form the knedle, or dumplings. So now that the potatoes are done, we'll go ahead and rice them. The reason we're using a vegetable ricer is because it will prevent the potatoes from getting really gooey. When you use a potato masher, you run the risk of the potatoes getting a little gooey and kind of rubbery and just not great. A ricer does prevent that. Using a ricer is, in my opinion, a little annoying, but it does yield a nice product. So we'll take, this is really hot, our potato, and just a little bit at a time, we'll add into the ricer. And the ricer just moves around. Slowly try to get them on all sides. So the potatoes start to come out the bottom, kind of like, well, rice. And we'll do this for all the potatoes. And now that we have riced the potatoes, we'll just add pieces of butter onto the hot potato. Let that melt into the potatoes. And we're gonna wanna let this rest for, well, however long it takes for it to cool, really. We can't move on to the next step until it has finished cooling, because we're gonna add egg, and if we add an egg now, it'll scramble and not turn into a dough. So let this rest, and once it's ready, I'll be back to make the dough. So quite a few things going on here. The stock is here, it just finished cooking, took us an hour. In here we have the potatoes. They have actually cooled down quite a bit, and the butter has melted into them, so after we finish this, we'll start on the dough. And of course the shrimps are on the side. There's a very good chance that we have a lot more dough than we will shrimp. That's okay. We can make like empty knedle as well. Use those on the side. You can freeze them. You can leave them in the fridge for a few days. use it however you want, or you can make gnocchi, but we'll make gnocchi on a different episode. So first what we're gonna do is I have a sauce pot and a strainer, and we're going to strain out the solids from our stock. I'm a little nervous that this is gonna fly everywhere, but I am going to just go for it anyway. I'm going to turn this on this side so I can have a better chance of looking at it. I'm going to use the spoon to hold back most of the shells so it doesn't splatter, and remember, we just gotta commit. That was so nice because all of the shells basically stayed in there. And here we have our stock. I am immediately going to go put this onto the stove. We want this to reduce by half, at least. There's a good amount in here. We want to reduce it a little bit more. Let's turn our attention now to the potatoes. So the first thing we need is 1 egg. We're just going to crack it and add it in. And the egg is going to act as a binder to hold the dough together. And we're just going to add in a lot of flour, like a lot. It should probably be like half flour, half potato is a good way to think about it. And now once again, we'll mix together gently at first so the flour doesn't poof everywhere. And it'll start to like get really crumbly, work into a dough. Probably not gonna need extra water. We might. But what we didn't do with the potatoes is dry them out once they were done. So there's some water still left in them. I don't think we're gonna actually add so many liquid. If you do need to add liquid, like it's too dry, it won't come together, like a splash of milk is gonna go a long way. But this is coming together. It's looking relatively dry, which is fine. We don't want it wet. We want it drier and holding to its shape. I am actually gonna let this sit just a little bit. It's okay to leave it sitting now because I want everything to come together at the end, and we got quite a ways for our sauce to reduce. So I'll be back in, well, for you, it'll be now. So now it's time to form the doughs. It's usually useful to have like your hands a little bit wet so the dough doesn't stick to it. Just pull out a little, like a golf ball size of dough, and we'll flatten it out like such. Take a shrimp, put it in the center, and carefully we're putting it together and roll. Once it's rolled like that, we'll leave it on our floured work surface, and we'll go ahead and do the rest. Now all of the knedle have been made. These two up in the front are empty because I just had leftover dough. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 knedle. Behind me here, you might not be able to see, it's right there. I have a pot of water come up to a boil. I'll salt the water, and then we will boil the knedle. Put in as many as you can at a time, but since we have 12, I think 6 and 6 will work. And boil them for about 15 minutes, or until you can take a toothpick and put it all the way through and it comes out clean. And once your dumplings are done, remove them to a plate lined with a piece of paper. And once they are dried, take some of the stock, add it into a pan, and add your dumplings and cook further for 2 to 3 minutes. And now it's time to serve. I think the easiest way to do this is to just get a fork, and we'll just take the dumplings, place them on the plate, I can look on such, and we'll just add the sauce on top, and it'll go underneath as well. A little bit of olive oil. Just like a little bit, so just a little olive oil on top. And now that I'm thinking about it, like, I think some fried onion rings would be really good on this too. But either way, here we have Knedle / kampima. Well, I for one am quite excited to try this, so let's just go right in. Let's cut. And you can see like a nice little cross section. Well, okay. And that actually looks pretty nice. Now here we go. Taste for Greg. Oh my god, that's amazing. Okay, the sauce, like, it's so flavorful. It has all the essence of scampi with the meat, and then the potato, it sops up all the flavor from the sauce. It's perfect. It's perfectly cooked. They have full part just a bit, but it's really like mashed potatoes that in spherical form. This is so good. I think larger scampi would have been better. It's a little bit more meat inside, but still, this is amazing. Like, I love this. I really love this. I thought this would be good, but this is so much better than I thought it would be. I'm absolutely in love. So this was Knedle Scampi. If you liked what you saw, please hit like and subscribe. And as always, doba tek. But at least if it's in the freezer, it's not too bad. Unless it's that, unless it's this. I don't know what this is. And I tasted it, and it was spicy. And I don't think it was supposed to be spicy, so I guess the moral of the story is don't forget things in the freezer.